we've got the candidates here and Adam Farber of Mark Adrian Shoes and the Downtown Business Alliance as our moderator. So let's give them all a big hand. And then let's not do that again till the end. How does that sound? Excellent.
We good here? Hello. Thank you all so much for coming. I will say first and foremost that I'm squeaking a little bit. I'm probably more nervous about this than the two candidates are. They've been doing this for a pretty long campaign season already, and this will be my first debate to be moderated. My name's Adam Farber. I own Mark Adrian Shoes on Main Street. In all transparency, while I certainly have a vested interest in this, I don't have a vote. I live in Beverly, and so it felt appropriate to moderate. I want to, first of all, thank Paul Lumberg and Mayor Greg Verga for joining us. Just the fact that you're sitting here is a testament to your commitment to downtown and our business districts. So thank you for taking your time. Ann Strong, who was on the mic a moment ago, is unbelievable, and she put this all together. And so thank you, Ann. I think she deserves a round of applause. I want to thank Zach Sears and the entire Minglewood team for hosting us. It really is an honor to be in this room.
And donating everything.
Yeah, donated everything. They donated the room. They donated the food, the coffee. So it's too late. You already sat down. You can't go get any more. No, if you have to go get yourself some water, by all means. And the bar is open. And afterward, please have something to eat or drink. I want to thank Tyler, Tom, and Joan from 1623. To be able to broadcast this out makes, this is a really fabulous crowd, but we can reach that many more people. And in any political event, it's really important that we do. I want to thank Melissa Cox for being our timekeeper tonight. And I want to thank everybody, all the participants in the Downtown Business Alliance. It's sort of an ad hoc group that's grown out of an Instagram thread. And if you have an involvement in a downtown business and want to be part of it, definitely, let's chat after, and we can add you, certainly. It's a growing group, and it's hopefully it'll become very powerful. I'm going to take 10 seconds to stand on my soapbox. The world is a crazy place politically, nationally. It's wherever you stand, it's bizarre, to be subtle about it. Local politics is where we make the biggest impact. It's very important to be informed, to be involved, and most especially to vote. So whichever of these candidates you choose, school committee, city council, et cetera, please just make sure you come out and vote on November 4th. Okay, so I'm going to skip bios, if that's okay with you gentlemen. I think everyone knows who you are to start, and I want to save as much time as we can for the real conversation. The ground rules for tonight. There are flyers in the back that will be available as you exit. So if you want some, first-hand account of these guys, please grab those. The ground rules for tonight: equal time, same questions for everybody. I don't think it needs to be said, but we're going to keep this very kind, civil. We like the audience to stay relatively quiet until the end when we have a short Q&A session. Each candidate will have 2 minutes to answer each question, followed by a 1-minute follow-up for each candidate, and then at my discretion, further follow-up if I think there's something that could be added from either or both of you. We drew chopsticks before this started, and Mayor Verga drew first, so he will begin with his opening statement, 2 minutes, followed by Mr. Lumberg. Then the questions will alternate. The first question to the mayor, second question to Mr. Lumberg, and they'll both answer both questions, but we'll alternate order. And at the end, we will have closing statements in the opposite order of opening statements. So I think that's it. I just want to say our time is short. We have a lot to get through, and my plea to both of you is to be as direct and specific as possible with your answers. it would help all of us better understand your plans. So we'll start with opening statements. Mayor Verga?
Okay, sure. Thank you, Adam. And I'd like to thank the Downtown Business Alliance for hosting this roundtable, or I guess rectangle table. And I'm making my case for mayor for the third time. I think the most important question for voters is, which candidate sees the real Gloucester and has the vision for this city that syncs up with everyday life, fit everyday people every single day? I'm one of those everyday people. I raised a family here, put myself through school while working full-time in a blue-collar job, and I'm proud to walk my grandchildren to West Parish School every opportunity I have. And I'm proud to be part of Gloucester's heritage. Excuse me, I grew up on Portuguese Hill, and my grandfather was a commercial fisherman. My dad worked for the city as the director of the Fisheries Commission. Up on the hill, like in so many parts of our city, we were part of a close-knit, diverse community. People worked hard for a living. We went to Our Lady of Good Voyage Church, and we're proud of our neighborhood's diversity and how that connected us to Gloucester's identity. It was inside my childhood home on the hill that I learned the value of service to others. My dad ultimately served in the legislature representing Gloucester, Rockport, and Essex for 7 terms as our state rep. So this won't come as a shocker, but I caught the bug to do civil service from my dad. Before becoming mayor, I served 8 years on the school committee, followed by 6 years on the city council. So my family's been fighting for decades to make Gloucester a better place for all of us. As a former small business owner here during my 15 years as an independent contractor and as a real estate agent, I encountered personal stories, lives, and livelihoods that drove home those lessons from my youth. My vision for Gloucester is a place that my ancestors, who came here over a century ago, will be proud of, a place where residents and businesses benefit from as many resources as we, the city government, can provide. I've done a lot to move Gloucester in the right direction, which more remains to be done. So I have the drive, I have the energy, and I have the passion for this city to see things through, while never changing the things that we all love about Gloucester. So thank you all for being here, and I'm looking forward to the debate.
Great. All right, Mr. Lundberg?
Well, thank you very much, Adam, and thank you to the Downtown Business Alliance and for all of you for being here tonight. Gloucester has always been a city of entrepreneurs, from our fishing fleet to our artists to our business owners right here downtown. This city has always been built by people who take risks, work hard, and create opportunity. As mayor, I'll make sure that Gloucester works with business, not against it. Our downtown merchants are the heartbeat of this community. Your success is Gloucester's success. During my business career in the railroad industry, I learned how to manage an income statement, how to motivate employees, and how to provide excellent customer service. And I can bring those skills and those experiences to our partnership. You need a mayor whose open door policy is coming to your door during hours which won't disrupt your businesses, to understand what working for your business, what isn't, and what City Hall can do to help you. You also need a civic partner who understands both the big picture and the day-to-day realities, someone with a proven private sector experience who knows how to tighten the belt when federal and state cuts are coming. I believe our city government should be your partner in making life easier, not harder. That means clearer parking solutions, smarter planning, and working together on everything from events to signage to public safety. I will respect your time, your investment, and the role you play in making this city vibrant. I'm standing for election to be mayor to lead Gloucester and to be your partner. Thank you.
Thank you both. As we begin, I want to first define downtown, and this is not a set in stone definition. This is just a vague description of what we're talking about today. Downtown Gloucester includes Main Street, of course, but it also includes Roger Street, Commercial Street, Middle Street, our working waterfront, and all the streets that connect them. Before we talk about future plans, let's look at where things stand right now. How do you feel about the mix of businesses, the level of activity, and the overall condition and vibrancy of downtown Gloucester right now? And Mayor, we'll start with you.
Sure. Well, I think we have a good mix of business, and we could certainly use more. There are a few empty storefronts that we should fill in. But Gloucester has, everything from art on Main Street to knickknacks to souvenirs to clothes, and it's really a vibrant community down here. And as you mentioned, it's more than just Main Street. And what we're looking to do is getting the bid in place, which is probably going to be a separate question. But to make Gloucester a better and more vibrant place, we need to do better. I'll admit that. We do need to do better. We have parking issues. In my belief, I believe it's perceived parking issues. We have a traffic study that we're looking to put into work in the coming term. We have to get the handle on the kiosks downtown because they have been a bear since the day I entered City Hall. And I, for full disclosure, they were there when I came to City Hall, and they weren't working then. And so we have focused a lot of our energy on getting those up and running, because when people come downtown, they want to be able to make a quick stop to a kiosk, get into the store, and spend their money to make your stores do better. So I have always had a focus on downtown, the expanded downtown that Adam just described, and my administration will continue to work hard. And I should mention that just yesterday we hired the Economic Development Coordinator, and she'll be starting Monday. So with that key position filled, we are ready to roll, and we will be rolling right through for the next 2 years.
Thank you.
So when I look at our downtown area as described by Adam, but and also in general, we have a very unique asset here. There are very few places where small business owners have a store that on one side is Main Street and the other side is a harbor, an incredible harbor. And that location is part of what we celebrate, but also something that we can use as an opportunity to make our businesses flourish. And the mix of businesses that we've just described are what make this vibrancy very, very unique. But we need a cohesive plan to do that. It's like every other kind of marketing plan. We've made fits and starts about marketing ourselves as a destination, but we're not quite there yet. We're still an amalgam of a lot of different businesses with everyone doing a different thing. That's the way it should be. But there is also that next level that the city can be the catalyst for. How do we take the wonderful properties of a historic Main Street, combine it with the incredible vista of a harbor that's been in active service to industry and for 400 years, and make that a cohesive destination? I see that as being something that we can do. And when I spoke about partnership in my opening remarks, that's the kind of partnership I think we can do. The city can be the leader on the concept, and the business owners who reside physically in this location can be the catalyst for making it work.
Thank you. Next question. Oh, excuse me. We have 1 minute follow-ups if either of you, if you choose.
Well, all I would add is that with the birth of the Downtown Business Alliance, congratulations, by the way, I do meet regularly with the Chamber of Commerce and with Discover Gloucester, and now I would look forward to meeting regularly with the Downtown Business Alliance and having the three organizations meet regularly at the same time with me. I think there's a lot of opportunity here, and you are the folks on the streets that are doing the important work, and we are ready to work with you. Ann was holding up a note. Sorry, Ann, I can't see it. No, so sorry. Okay.
Mr. Lundberg, did any follow-up? 1 minute?
The only follow-up I would say is that all of the efforts that we've described here in this answer to the first question are really important efforts. One of us has been in office for 3 years and is just getting started on those efforts, and I'm bringing to the table a vision of getting going right now when I start.
All right, the next question. The city has just hired an economic development coordinator. While this role will cover the entire city, downtown merchants wonder what specific part of this position can play in strengthening the downtown area. How will the new coordinator directly support small businesses? How would you direct or work with this new hire to make sure downtown benefits in a clear and meaningful way? Please be specific about the role this person will play in downtown revitalization. And this question we are starting with Mr. Lundberg.
Thank you. So as with any job, city job or business job, the first step is what's the job description. Before you go and hire someone and celebrate the fact that you hired a person, what have you hired them to do? And an economic development director can be a lot of things. So specifically, what I would do with that person, if I'm elected mayor, is to give a couple of goals to that person on the kind of outlook that we hope will become a destination for the downtown area. An economic development director has got a lot of different things besides downtown, and I'm certain that that's in the job description. It's not just a downtown economic development director. But for the downtown purposes, I would set some specific goals and some timelines on what I would like that person to do. And the specific things would be to identify the elements, the common elements that all the businesses have to become a cohesive destination, not just a series of individual businesses, and then to promote those cohesive businesses into a single destination from a marketing standpoint. That's what I would do with that job.
Okay, I'm up?
Yep.
So you're correct, you addressed it, Adam, that this is not the downtown business director or coordinator. They'll be handling all businesses, large or small, whether it's a shop on Main Street or Applied Materials out in the industrial park, as well as businesses on Washington Street in Lanesville, Lexington Ave in Magnolia, and every little shop throughout the community. That being said, there'll be a lot of first things that this person has to do, because there is no just focus on this. One is going to be a lot of introductions. We'll be sitting down. First thing we'll do when she comes here on Monday is start introducing her around to the stores and setting up a meeting with the organizations that I mentioned, Downtown Business Alliance, Chamber of Commerce, Discover Gloucester, and they will have a presence on the board at Discover Gloucester. But one of the major missions, the prime directive, will be to restart the bid process, because that is a big one. We made a lot of progress on that, and then we got set back a little bit with last year's budget. But we have made it very clear in the interviews with all the candidates, especially the one we just hired, that is going to be the big enchilada on this one. So that will be the first mission for her when she starts next week, is to read up on all of the bid information. She did a great job for her interview doing her homework, but that is going to be the key to moving the downtown businesses forward. And then we'll have to think carefully about what happens if the bid doesn't make it through. And I'm sure that's going to come up later as another question.
So follow-ups are optional, but Mr. Lundberg, do you have any follow-up you'd like to thought?
No, again, it's really heartening to see that we're doing something about it. The question that I have is, it's been 3 years since the mayor's been in office, and that function, and I talked about the job function earlier, has been untended and vacant.
Yes, that's incorrect. The job title has been unfilled, but the tasks have been filled by the community development director, who's been wearing a lot of hats over the last year or so. So we do not call it quits when the last person left the position. We have been moving forward and making progress. Now we're going to make a lot of extra progress. We have someone focused on this job, this job throughout the city. But the main mission is to get this bid up and running one way or another.
Thank you. All right, so next question, coincidentally, is about the bid.
Mm-hmm. Well, imagine that.
Some communities have created business improvement districts where property owners pool resources to fund improvements that go above and beyond, not replace, city services. One of the biggest advantages is the ability to hire full-time staff whose only job is to focus on downtown's vitality, including coordinating events, marketing, beautification, recruiting new businesses, and serving as the liaison to other city government. Do you support the establishing of a bid for downtown Gloucester? And how would your administration continue to work with such an effort to make sure it succeeds?
Sure. So yes, to answer the first question, I do support it, as I sort of hinted to a few minutes ago. But we have got to get this process rolling again, because the bid can do a lot. As you mentioned, it provides the funds to have someone focused specifically on downtown. As we talked about, this new coordinator is going to come in, and their job is on all 28 square miles of Gloucester, every business, not just downtown, but working very closely with whoever walks into the job for the bid. So the difficulty for the bid is basically the funding formula. It's a voluntary tax on the property owner. So not many, I forget what the percentage was you had on your research, but not many of the small businesses on Main Street own their building. They're tenants. And there's the concern about, will there be a pass-through in their rent? That remains to be seen. We're going to get to that next phase and do the surveys and see if we can get support. If the bid doesn't pass the voluntary tax, was to look at a Plan B, which will involve pretty much the same thing, but we'll be looking at grant funding, and that will be the job of the Downtown Business Alliance and whoever they can pull in to seek out grants to cover these functions. This will not replace what we do. It's not going to be, we're not going to plow Main Street anymore because there's a bid. It's all the extra bells and whistles that this organization will do. The bid has been proven to work in other places, and we can make it work here.
Thank you. Mr. Lundberg?
So again, as I mentioned in the previous answer, the first step is to establish the goal. What is the goal of the bid in the first place? Just so everyone understands that, as the mayor described, it's a voluntary coalescence of business owners who agree to be taxed to pay for certain things that the city won't pay for or can't pay for. So the first question is, what is it that we want to do with this bid? What is the goal for establishing it? Before we can establish it and sell it, we need to have a result. And that's the purpose of vision. That's what we're looking for and what we're lacking. We don't have a vision right now of what the bid would do. So before we start trying to get business property owners interested in a bid, we better have a vision of what we're going to use the money for, and that would be my first step.
So a 60-second follow-up.
Yeah, well, that is the vision of the bid, is to create the vision. Before they're not going to go hire someone first. They're going to, the members of this business alliance will decide what they are looking for in their bid. And at that point, they will go out and seek someone to do the job. Obviously, you have to walk before you run. So we don't set the goals from the mayor's office. We'll be letting the business owners who are going to be funding this bid decide how the bid is going to work. And the vision will be their vision, which we will share and we will work to make actually happen.
Mr. Lundberg, any follow-up for you?
Well, as we have seen over the past many years, coalescing a vision from a disparate group of people is very, very difficult. We can coalesce the vision without having to set up a funding mechanism to pay another individual, another kind of consulting individual to do the work for us. We can do that part of the work first. We can get the business owners interested in pursuing a bid with some form of vision.
Thank you both. I'm going to ask a follow-up question to each of you, and that is, and Mayor, you alluded to this, the Plan B. Mm-hmm. You know, there's a fairly high bar for a bid to get approval. If a business improvement district cannot secure enough votes if a business improvement district cannot secure enough vote support for downtown property owners to move forward, what would be your alternative plan? How would you ensure downtown still gets the dedicated attention, resources, and needs without a bid?
Right, and I think it's important not to throw out the baby with the bathwater on this one, because the bid can serve a purpose. If the funding is not there, I pretty much already said what Plan B was, which is to still move forward and to then look for grants to cover the functions that, a person to be the bid manager or whatever you would like to call them, and fund the stuff that the organization would like to see happen. So we are not ready to just surrender if the votes aren't there. And then if the votes aren't there and we get this Plan B in place, we can make sure that we work very collaboratively to earn those votes as we move forward, because it will prove that there's a benefit to doing it.
So again, I would say that before we start asking people to fund something that is undefined and fund yet another position, we now have a community development director, and now we have a business development director. We can start the process of creating the vision of what this bid would actually do. I think that that's the most important thing for the city to say to business owners is, we want you to put up some money to pay for things that the city would normally pay for, because it's all infrastructure. And but here's where we're starting. We're starting with a concept. And rather than have to fund yet another position to get the concept up, we ought to be able to create the concept first.
Okay, thank you both. Next question. Hiring an economic development coordinator and exploring a business improvement district are longer-term steps. In the first 6 months of your administration, what specific actions would you commit to that could quickly improve downtown, the low-hanging fruit that residents and businesses would notice right away?
Who's up first?
And that is Mayor Verga.
Sure. Well, obviously, this position is going to be key, but let me just go back to the previous question. I don't know how many times I have to say it, but the process of the bid is to develop the vision. It is the business owners who are going to determine the vision, not from the mayor down. It's going to be them up. And it is a position funded by the business owners, not another city position. So that being said, the first task, as I mentioned, is to get this community development, the economic development coordinator out there meeting all of y'all and finding out what exactly is specific needs for your business and what the common needs are for all of your businesses. For the downtown to thrive, it's going to take collaboration. And that collaboration has been going on for the last 3.5 years. So we will continue to do that and make sure that Gloucester is a place that's going to, we have a lot of work to do. We are very popular, as noted in the recent top 10 ranking. We were in 3rd for the best places on the East Coast. So we have a reputation that's making people come here to visit, who want to live here, who want to spend their money here. And we have the resources to fund this person, the economic development coordinator, and they're going to do the job to get this bid off the ground because, I keep saying bid is going to be the repeat word of the night, but that's how we're going to move things forward. We have not been standing still. We've been making improvements incrementally, and there is an opportunity before us now. And we shouldn't just say, well, there's no vision. Well, the vision will come, and you've all made it very clear what their vision is. You've got this wonderful document you put together. So we are ready to roll, and we have been rolling for 3.5 years.
Mr. Lumberg, 2 minutes.
Yeah, so the low-hanging fruit is listed in your, in the document that Mayor just described, the opportunities for downtown, for downtown improvement. There's plenty of low-hanging fruit in there. One of the things that the city can do a way better job of is coordinating the services that it provides to the downtown area in a way that doesn't interfere with business hours. For instance, fixing the streets, cleaning the streets, making sure everything works. And all of the items that are listed on that list of opportunities, those are all things we could do right away and within this first 6 months. And we don't have much planning to do for that because they're very clear. So that's what I would do in my first 6 months.
So as a follow-up, I'm gonna push each of you a little bit. So you both reviewed that document, and if anyone out there hasn't seen it, it can be shared. What are 2 or 3 of the items on that document that you think you could do very quickly with very little time that we would see a direct impact?
Well, you're starting to see the parking signs have gone up. The wayfinding signs are ready to get printed. We're going to be able to print some of them. We have a print shop here at the DPW yard. Some of them have to go out to print. The DPW director or someone from the DPW staff has walked around with the community development director to locate spots to put these signs. One of the main goals that you point out here has been the main goal since we started this project is to make the connection between East End and West End of Main Street more prominent, which is part of the signage plan. The kiosks, as I said, I inherited them. They were lemons, and we've been spending the last 3.5 years trying to make some lemonade out of them. But that is something that, as you point out in here, we do have a person who's pretty much full-time keeping those things up and running. There's some suggestions about changing the parking to some free parking, expanded free parking. That's something we have to look carefully at because there was as I mentioned in a previous meeting with the Downtown Business Alliance, I had suggested Councilor Toby suggested at the time on the council to eliminate meters downtown. I supported him, but the merchants were quite opposed to that, so that never happened. So those are some of the lowest of the low-hanging fruit. The parking study will be looking to implement some of those suggestions. Some of them are easy, the tiered parking, for instance. Other suggestions about rerouting traffic to one-way streets might be a little more controversial and therefore more complex in doing, but we are going to move forward with those. So I would say very quickly, some of these things have already begun in the last several weeks. Some of them are ongoing in the coming weeks, and I would say in the next few months, a lot of them will be complete. And my goal is to have many of these things ready by the tourist season next year.
Mr. Lumberg?
Yeah, so again, I think that some of the things that can happen right away are the cosmetic things. the cleaning of the streets, the restoration of the lights and the trees, the thing that go directly to the physical ambiance of the downtown area. Those are things that we could do right away.
Thank you. All right, so this next question goes to Mr. Lundberg first. Mayor, you just did start touching on this, but we'll be more specific. This is the topic that derails many meetings. Parking
boy.
is often the top concern raised by downtown businesses and city residents. Confusing and often out-of-order kiosks are a deterrent to locals and visitors, yet enforcement of the 2-hour limit is critical to keeping spaces available for shoppers. What specific changes would you make to improve the parking system, including kiosks, signage, alternative employee and resident parking options, so it works better for everyone while protecting business turnover?
Well, thanks for giving me the first opportunity to talk about the one that's going to derail the meeting here. Of course, there's no easy answer for parking, and one of the answers that that I love hearing is, when we have St. Peter's Fiesta, and there's thousands of people come to Gloucester, everyone's saying they can be parked to do their shopping, as opposed to just leaving their car there forever, or employees parking there. That's been the age-old problem there. And as far as there being an easy solution, there really isn't one. But we can start by trying to figure out. It's been a long time since we've had the dysfunctional parking meters, or these kiosks that have been such a headache for everyone. They don't work. The technology theoretically is supposed to work in terms of moving the cars along and that sort of thing. And we have not been able to or done a good job addressing that. So that's one thing that we either need to fix those things or move them away from the city and start afresh on that particular problem.
So I had mentioned, I used the phrase a perceived parking problem, and I think I mentioned this in our last meeting with your group, that I'm not going to say which business, but I was at an East End business, and the owner says to me, it was Christmas time, and she says, I need to talk to you about the parking problem down here. I says, but not today, because I'll talk to you later. I said, okay, thanks. I go outside, and there was parking as far as the eye could see. So the issue is, when you go to the mall, you don't mind parking a mile from the store. In Gloucester, people want to be right in front of the store that they're going into. So that's why I say there's a perceived parking problem. But perception is reality for a lot of people. So we do have to work on that. The kiosks, there was a suggestion of making a 2-hour free parking. We still have to have the kiosk because we're not going to be chalking tires and someone with a stopwatch. So they'll still have to enter their information. I did find out about some of the kiosks are not a moneymaker. I've got about $300,000 total for the parking kiosks and the few meters we have. And the parking on Main Street is about $50,000 a year. So we wouldn't be losing much income if we were to go to a longer free period. Same thing with the long-term parking. The monthly parking pass is about $30,000 of income. So we can do things where we can reduce that price to get people off of Main Street, meaning the employees. But the big thing is that turnover. That was the big pushback when the suggestion was made to get rid of the meters back about 10 years ago, 15 years ago. So those are things that we can tackle right away. Parking garage, one thing people don't like in Gloucester is the way things they are. The other thing they don't like is change. So we're going to be working hard on that.
I'm going to ask one short follow-up, give you each 30 seconds to follow up with me. Whether it's a real problem or a perceived problem, I think it's probably both. One of the challenges is communicating to residents who have sworn off downtown because of history of parking challenges. How do we communicate with the residents of Gloucester that you can come downtown, you can find parking? Because I think that in and of itself is a challenge. Who started this one? Mr. Lundberg?
Well, I think that, communication is the key for everything, but I think in this particular instance, what we would want to communicate to people to come downtown is to give them the content of that communication is not just come downtown, you'll be able to park. Come downtown and here's where you can park and how much it's going to cost. And that kind of a communication might go a little bit toward making people feel more comfortable that they have the knowledge of what their options are, rather than just just a vague thing of come downtown is parking's better. We really have to be specific when we communicate.
I think your time is up on that one.
Thank you.
Thank you. 30 seconds?
Sure. That will be, this as we move forward on the traffic study and implementing some of the suggestions, it will be a very public process and a lot of votes and hearings. So the word will get out. As people start to see the wayfinding, these aren't going to be little tiny signs. It'll be very noticeable signs around town. That's going to send a message. And then obviously as we start to implement things, with the wayfinding, we're going to get the word out there, and there'll be good content to explain what we're talking about. Because the goal is to drive people downtown and to drive people money out of their wallets and into your cash registers.
Thank you. Okay, let's move on. Vacant storefronts, especially in the East End and at Talley's Corner, diminish the appeal of downtown areas. Many merchants feel strongly that downtown needs more retail options, not additional banks or first-floor office spaces. How would you actively recruit and retain retail businesses downtown, and what specific steps would you take to fill vacancies with the kind of shops and services that keep downtown vibrant? And we're going to start with Mayor Berger.
Sure. Well, I mean, again, it goes back to this position that we've been waiting to fill, and now we have filled. Talley's Corner is, let's talk specifically about that one. That's a tough one. I mean, that's a multi-billion-dollar company who doesn't really have, this is probably low on their list of priorities. But I recently spoke to someone who had an in with one of the owners, and there seems to be some interest in having something happen there, or at least selling it off. We do have a vacant building fine that can be imposed, but if you're a billion-dollar company, it's really not much to them. So we need to get added paid parental leave to help attract and retain the best talent. And that's what we can do here, is we're going to do what we can to raise, provide housing for more business employees, and to provide job opportunities through a vocational school, through GMGI. Those are going to be the keys. What's going to attract people here, businesses here, is knowing that we have a good school system. We've got work to do there. And knowing that we have housing. We're working very hard on that. We have created new housing. And creating opportunities for employment. So those are all the things that we are doing and will continue to do.
So as with any business problem, the solution for the vacant stores is one of a plan and the incentives to implement that plan. They're vacant for a reason. Some of the reasons are more mysterious than others, but the fact is that these vacant stores are on Main Street. So there's a plus right there. And I think that the idea of what we want, what we, the city creates as a vision, and we've heard some of that. We would rather have retail stores and not another bank or another real estate. So all of a sudden, we got a little bit of vision going there. That is the kind of vision that needs to be coalesced and put into an action plan. And then you can go to the people who own those businesses and see what the problem is for them. Is it one of tax incentives or something along those lines? Is it they just, that's down low on their totem pole, as the mayor said about Talley's Corner? But there is no barrier to having a plan and then advocating that plan with the owners of those businesses, however big or small they are. But we have to have the plan first. What do we want downtown to look like? So let's start with that.
Do you have a follow-up?
Just
1 minute?
a quick one. I'll use the example of the cut. That's an example of an investor who took a chance, came to us, talked about his vision, and we bent over backwards to make sure that thing got off the ground, which was a TIF, and thank you to the council for voting for that. Very small TIF money out of our pocket, but what it did is enable them to get like a 7-figure grant from the state to get that place open, and it has proven to be a success. So that's just one example of how we collaborated with someone who was willing to invest their time and money in Gloucester and what was probably one of the most prominent vacant storefronts downtown for a very long time.
Mr. Lundberg, do you want to use a follow-up?
Just the fact that plans like that, and that wasn't our plan, that was the Cuts plan, but we helped them with that. But plans are where we have to start. So we need a plan for every one of those vacant buildings and storefronts before we can start pursuing the solution for filling that place up.
Okay, thank you. I have a question about public safety.
Yep.
Some behaviors downtown, loitering, public intoxication, and even public urination by a small minority of vulnerable individuals make customers and employees feel uncomfortable and unsafe, especially on the east end of Main Street. How would you balance compassion for those in need with the responsibility to ensure downtown remains safe, welcoming, and a place to live, work, and shop? And we're going to start with Mr. Lundberg.
Yeah, so that from my experience during this campaign, as I've gone up and down Main Street talking to business owners, almost everyone mentions that. That's part of the ambiance of the downtown shopping experience that's being eroded because of that kind of presence in our community. We also have a community obligation, and we've all accepted that obligation to be compassionate, to be welcoming, and to provide the right kind of services for those people who need them. I think that with the Grace Center, the Grace Center is an organization that has a lot of experience of managing their clients. And we need to make sure that they are doing everything they can to manage their clients, but also to look at all of their other experiences. They're in many towns and cities, and they have a lot of different facilities. There are ways to make the occupancy of a facility like the Grace Center compatible with the business climate that we wish to seek. We just have to be the advocate for those changes with that service provider. We can start there. There are lots of other folks who inhabit our downtown who aren't clients of the Grace Center, but we'll start with them because they're the experts, and then we'll move on to the other part of the problem.
So I think some of the key words that were said are indeed key words. You know, we need to have compassion. We need to have patience, but patience to a point. So the Grace Center has been very responsive. Jason Etheridge, the head of LifeBridge, based out of Salem, I have his cell phone number, and when things are brought to our attention, we call him, and it is addressed very quickly. One in particular is the time that they opened and the Action Shelter closed, had an hour gap, which created a lot of, let's just say, hanging around. They closed that gap. That really helped out. We had some concerns about people smoking, so we had them moving along and putting in butt containers, and so that's been a help. But, you know, their clientele changes from day to day, so it's a constant reminder to the new clientele what the expectations are. You know, we do have to understand that when the Grace Center was located at the UU Church, it was quite controversial over there as well. But downtown, we have, I talked to a few business owners who expressed their concerns about it, and we had the police go down there regularly. So people should not be afraid to call the police. That is their job. So if people go on Facebook to complain about something, it's kind of too late by the time we get the message. So if something's going on, we need to know if it's something serious. But the police will send out the community impact unit to talk to the people who are, you know, the vulnerable population. And they are very compassionate with these people. They don't just go down there and, you know, bust heads and put handcuffs on them. So the Grace Center is one that is going to take a little while to finally work out the kinks, but I think we can get there. But it is a very vulnerable population, and I think we all need to have a little bit of empathy and a little grace, no pun intended.
Anything to follow up, Mr. Lundberg?
Well, we do have empathy and grace. There's no question about that. What we don't really have is the follow-up, because the problem persists. So yes, episodically, we call the police, we call the person who's head of the Grace Center, and the instant problem gets solved, but that doesn't solve the long-term problem. We need to partner with them to do a better job on the overall structure of how that works. That's something that we need to do and we haven't done.
We have done. We've had meetings with them, with the ward councilor, with the police chief, and members of the community impact unit. The Chamber of Commerce actually helped facilitate that. So these things are being done. And as I said, they have a shifting clientele, so it's going to be something that's going to take a while to sort of sink in to be the second nature down there. I don't want to say we should just sweep them off of Main Street. They serve an important function, again, to a vulnerable population. But we are doing things. We aren't just waiting for the dam to break.
Thank you. We touched on this a little bit, but I want to follow up. The Wayfinding project has been ongoing for months, even years, yet no signs have been installed to date. Merchants are frustrated that parking lot signs are not included in the first round, even though visitors and locals alike say they struggle to find available parking. How would you ensure that the wayfinding project delivers results quickly and that signage for parking and connection between downtown areas becomes a top priority? And this is going to start with, yes, Mayor Verga.
Okay, sure. It is a priority, and as I mentioned, the parking signs, the big P signs, have started to go in place, I think, about 2 weeks ago. And I did see the drafts of the wayfinding signage today. They've worked in collaboration with Discover Gloucester for their actions, because we want to make sure that what they were planning matched up with the color code of what we're doing. So they are in the works as we speak, and you will be seeing them popping up in the next couple of weeks. As I said, they're going around today making sure they find the right sites. They'll be done by our DPW crew. They have to make sure there's no utilities in the ground where they want to put them, so there's no damage to electrical or other utilities. So it is a priority, and it is literally ongoing. Not as we speak, they close for the day, but they'll be picking up again tomorrow.
Thank you.
So when we define priority, we define priority in terms of time. It's been a long time since this problem has been identified. It's taking a wicked long time to get some signs up. And I would say that that is probably the most important thing that we need to do. Yes, of course, wayfinding, the signs, what they say, all of that stuff, that is not a mystery. And it shouldn't have ever been a mystery for the last 3 years, but it's taken an awful long time to get those signs up. And so, as with anything else, we need a plan. We need an accountability of when we're going to get the plan done, and being very specific about it. I think as business owners, that's one of the things that you all do in your everyday business planning. You set some goals, you set a timeline, and you accomplish that because that's what the business demands. The city, as a civic business partner, has not done a very good job of comporting with your business plan. Saying that wayfinding is coming along, they're going to pop up at any moment, that is not a business way of handling this. And the wayfinding is a business, it's a business strategy and a business tactic, and we need to do a better job of getting it done.
To say that the signs haven't made their way up in 3.5 years is correct, but they also have not been up in 402 years. Okay, we actually got this project going, and we are in the process of beginning and completing the project. So it's a bit disingenuous to say that the magic wand of the Verga administration is ineffective.
Any other follow-up, Mr. Lundberg?
That speaks for itself. Thank you.
Many business owners say they often hear about DPW work or utility disruptions only after they begin. They want clear points of contact and more timely communication. What steps would you take to improve day-to-day coordination between City Hall and downtown merchants? Mr. Lundberg.
Again, being a civic business partner means just that. And so on a daily basis, part of what business owners downtown face is what are they going to do today? How's it going to work today? What are the obstacles that are different from yesterday? And the city just owes it to the business owners to be every day in communication about the things that are going to impact the business plans of all of you. And the frustration that I've been hearing is because that's not happening. And again, that is not impossible to do. Communication is actually quite simple. It just needs an attention to detail, but what it really needs is a plan and a vision that we are partners with you, and we're going to make sure that what we need to give to you to make your businesses work, we do it every day at the right time.
When there's a utility issue, especially one that's out of our hands, such as the National Grid, we typically we post it on Facebook. We have our ward council, your ward councilor, go down and meet with the businesses and talk about what's going on. And I'm not going to say his name out loud here, but the community liaison for National Grid is very responsive. I think many of you in this room probably have his cell phone number. So it's important that we have the messaging to you, and that National Grid gets done what they need to get done. A lot of times, National Grid's scheduling is emergency work, like what happened, I believe, earlier in the year with when the power went out over near the Virgilio's area. So some of this stuff cannot be planned out because we're dealing with infrastructure. In the case of the city, hundreds of years old of water and sewer lines, and then in the case of National Grid, very outdated electrical, and in the case of Verizon, a lot of outdated phone. So messaging is something that can be improved, and part of the function of the new coordinator will be taking up part of that role. So I think it's important to understand that it's hard to plan things when it's
That's your
emergency.
time.
Okay.
But there is a 1-minute follow-up. So,
Okay, great,
Mr.
thank
Lundberg, if you want to follow up.
Yeah, so emergencies do occur, there's no question about that, but they're the exception, not the rule. We don't have a rule because we're not participating with the business owners on a regular communication basis that tells them exactly what's going on. Of course, there are going to be emergencies and things that spring up. But when to say that National Grid and other providers, there's something that is, quote, out of our hands, that is just not true. We are their customer, and they respond to us if we are forceful and an advocate for what service demands we need.
Out of our hands is when a line goes in the middle of the night. So I'll leave it at that.
Okay. Merchants have praised volunteer groups like Generous Gardeners, but say that downtown still struggles with overflowing trash barrels, snow and ice on sidewalks, especially in front of vacant buildings, and general upkeep. They also note that Main Street once had lights in the trees, which made the downtown more welcoming at night. What role should the city play in maintaining clean, safe, and inviting streetscapes year-round? And could features like lighting return to help make downtown feel more vibrant? And we'll start with Mr. Berga.
Sure. Well, there is a role to play, and we will play. The lights in the trees, when I first came to office, it was requested that we have them removed because they got pretty ratty. Many of them weren't working, and they had power cords coming from second-floor units out across to the trees, which didn't seem very pretty. So there is an opportunity to put them back, but that comes back to the bid for those extras of how the merchants envision what they want downtown. So we are there to help, and I think that we can do it as a partnership. But there's so much that the city does that we can't necessarily. As I said, we have to work across the city, all businesses. Main Street does get quite a bit of attention with snow removal. You've raised a great point about the vacant buildings. We can remove the snow and charge it back to them, just like we do with vacant homes throughout the city. If we have to go do landscaping, we can do the work and put it on a tax lien on their house. So the last thing we want to see is unsafe sidewalks, unsafe roads, and we will continue to do our part and work with our new director, coordinator, and with the Downtown Merchants Association, and hopefully your bid representative to make these things happen ahead of time with a long vision of what's right for downtown.
Okay, 2 minutes, Mr. Lundberg.
So the lights in the trees are a great example of what I've been talking about in terms of having a plan and executing the plan. Mayor Berger said the lights were in the trees, but they became ratty. They became ineffectual. They became falling apart and all that stuff. So what did we do? We took them out. And then what? Where's the replacement plan? And it's been quite a while since they've been out. I think that there is a universal feeling that those really created a lovely ambiance to the downtown and made it seem really friendly when it starts to get dark. But we had no plan and with no sense of urgency as a part of the business plan of the downtown business owners. That's part of their business plan. It is not the city utility solely. And the city can figure out how to replace that, not just wait until something else happens. And I think that's the frustration that a lot of us feel, is that there's no plan that's coincident with the business plans of these business owners, and that we're letting them down.
Any follow-up?
I think that's an oversimplification, but that being said, we are here to work with the businesses, and we are putting our best foot forward, and we are going to make some serious changes as we move ahead. Last year's budgeting really put a damper on what we could and couldn't do. This year's budget, thankfully, was one that didn't have any cuts. It actually allowed us to bring positions back, such as the coordinator. So I see good things ahead with the city that's on a very good financial footing.
Mr. Lundberg, any follow-up?
Yeah, just that budgeting can be managed if you have a plan. It's not just, oh, the budget won't let us do it. That's an insufficient answer, especially for business owners.
Okay, thank you. I just have one more question, and then we'll open the floor for a few. Will you commit to meeting regularly with representatives of downtown businesses, whether it's as the bid or as the Downtown Business Alliance? And if so, how often and in what format would you make those meetings happen? And we'll start with Mr. Lundberg.
So there are a couple of formats, meeting together where we have common interests. Excuse me, when the business owners have common interests, and meeting separately when they have individual interests, and I think both are necessary. I've always felt that as a manager, going to the place where the work is performed is very effective, and much more effective than having someone come to a conference room somewhere else. When you go to the business location, you get a real good sense of what the problem is and what you can do to fix it. So I would do two things. I would have a regular series of visits to the businesses on their actual place of business, as well as common meetings with everyone on the common issues.
So, as I mentioned earlier, we do have quarterly meetings with the Chamber of Commerce, quarterly meetings with Discover Gloucester, and I would love to get started with at least quarterly meetings with you as a group. I do go downtown for lunch 2 to 4 times a week and stop in businesses and chat with people along the way and in their businesses, and that will continue. But I think it's important to meet as a group because you are speaking as a group. I mean, I can go talk to one business in their shop, which I will do, and another business in their shop, but it's not necessarily what the group is working on. One of the beauties of having the bid is that it's one singular voice that is directly connected to the city. So to answer your question, absolutely, yes, I will meet regularly. And if quarterly proves to be too much of a gap, we'll make it monthly. We'll make it weekly, whatever it takes.
Any follow-up, Mr. Lundberg?
I think that the idea of doing that is a great one. It's just the execution which hasn't occurred.
It's a new group, and I'm happy to meet with this new group.
Great. So we've done pretty well with time. I'm out of my questions, so I think we can take some time to take questions from all of you folks. Joanne raised her hand very quickly. We're going to bring a mic to you, though, so stay. Do we have the mic? Joanne, should we?
I think I heard you mention something quickly about I4C2, and I'm just wondering what both of you have in mind for that spot. I think it's a very important part of the downtown.
Mm-hmm. Who's up first?
It's a good question.
I just finished, so.
You just finished, so I
Yeah.
guess you go first then. Yeah, we're alternating, so he started the last, Mr. Lundberg started the last.
Oh, okay,
one.
so
You
I'm
start
first.
there.
Okay. Sorry for the confusion. I4C2. So I was on the city council when we purchased I4C2 back in 2012-ish, plus or minus. And I said then I didn't vote to buy a parking lot. It was what I called a spite site. You know, the previous owner was trying to build a mall. I remember in the 80s there was bumper stickers, stop the mall. And when that didn't happen, he just put up an ugly chain link fence and let it get overgrown. So when we had the opportunity to buy it with some Seaport Economic Council money, we did. And so it went out for a visioning exercise where people were given like $5,000 to come up with some concepts. None of them happened because every one of them wanted the city to pay for their concept, no matter how, pie in the sky it was. So it's sort of just been sitting there as parking. What I would like to see is make it a productive place and either a land lease or sell the thing outright. But one of the things I want to do is make sure that we have the ability to utilize the parking outside of business hours, like Bank Gloucester provides with no official agreement with the city. So that's the only parcel we really own on the waterfront down there, and it's got so much potential. But we are looking to see what can happen there. We've done bore testing on that, so it's basically all filled land. Some people think the urban renewal stuff that was ripped down in the 70s ended up piled up there. So it's unclear what is under that top level, or what can be done. But it's time for us to once again ask for investors, what do you want to do there to make it productive? And it's also in the designated port area and falls under our marine industrial, so it's limited what can go there. Somebody can't just go and put up, an amusement park. There's very limited uses. But something productive should happen there that still benefits the city in the off hours.
Mr. Lundberg.
So we may have a different definition of productive. I'm not exactly sure what that means for I4C2. I'll put it very simply. I4C2 is the only open space the city owns on the harbor, with the exception of St. Peter's parking lot. So it is a unique asset that the city owns. It should remain open space. We should not be parking cars on there. We should be developing it as open space park area. Now, if we can stick a parking garage underneath the park, that would be great. And of course, we'll have to study that and make sure that it's all stable and all that. But it is open space. It is unique because it's the only space that the city owns, and that is what we should do with it.
Thank you. Questions?
Suzanne Silvera. I have a couple things. One, Mayor Verga, we did wayfinding when I worked for the City of Van Tourism. Thanks to John Bell and a grant that he was able to procure for us, Maggie Roser and I and others did a very large wayfinding program with signs both for people in cars and also people on foot. So we had wayfinding in the past. A problem was that when someone would hit a sign with a car or whatever, the sign disappeared. It was never erected again by DPW. Secondly, about 2 years ago, I emailed you, and I said I was concerned that the Tourism Commission, which has a different message than the Discover Gloucester, had ceased to exist. The Downtown Development Commission had ceased to exist, which had provided a voice for downtown. But the third thing I said to you was that when Gloucester Crossing was built, part of the special city council permit was an agreement to put a kiosk at Gloucester Crossing to promote downtown. It was never done. I don't think Sam Park did it on purpose, because I don't think he's that type of man. I think it fell through the cracks. So I got no response from you about any of these issues.
I'm sorry, is there a specific question?
Well, I would at least like to know if there was a response about the kiosk, and I think it's very important now that Gloucester Crossing is basically fully filled. Do you have a plan to go and put a kiosk up there to work with Sam Park to have one erected?
So it's a good question, and thank you for bringing up those points. I would like you to answer a question about the kiosks. I've also heard, and I don't know if this is true, that there was supposed to be an annual fee or an annual amount of money to subsidize something downtown, which is maybe where the lights came from in the first place. And I think that maybe $20,000 or so has not continued. I don't want to be quoted on any of that because it may be completely false, but that's what I had heard. So I didn't know if you had any insight into that as well as Suzanne's question.
Sure. So the kiosk is something we can revisit. We're also working with Sam on another issue like access to the new Green Street Park. So we can take the opportunity to talk to him about that. As far as the downtown, the fund, I don't know. I was on the school committee when all the Gloucester Crossing happened, so I'm not sure. I don't remember. And if it did happen, I don't know if it's sunset. But I just made a note to find out what's going on and see if there is indeed a fund somewhere that's got some money there.
I can explain that if you'd like me to.
Well, good talk to the
Why
moderator.
don't we follow up afterward instead of taking everyone's time? Mr. Lumberg, did you have anything on that question?
Well, I was on the city council when we did Gloucester Crossing, so I'll take responsibility for the fact that there's no kiosk there, and we should have one. So let's get it going.
Okay. Do you know anything about the fund?
No.
Okay.
You were on the city council in 2005, or when? Okay, thank you.
All right. Questions? Nope.
All right.
Hi, Larry, neighbor of Tamber. We're a neighbor, of course, Tally's Corner. You touched on that a little bit. It's not an easy one, but would either of you make a prediction of what that corner will look like at the end of your 2-year term?
Okay, who's up first?
Mr. Lumberg will be up first.
So it is, again, a wicked, valuable, and unique space, and it should be developed into some kind of urban setting, whether it's a retail or some kind of business, because it's the bookend of Main Street. And there really isn't any, quote, open space use for it. So we need to encourage the development, however we do that. Now, if there are intricacies with whoever owns it now and what their plans are, then we just need to parse through those and say that it is the goal of the city of Gloucester to have that parcel developed. And we set that as our goal, and then we give tasks to people like the new economic development director, and put that on his or her plate as number one. Go figure this out. Find out what our options are with the owner to develop that, so that we have something live there and it's not just a barren space with a chain link fence around it, which doesn't do anybody any good, especially when you can see it from St. Peter's Park and from Oak to Ember. And it just is unsightly.
So at the end of the 2-year term, I see at best still a construction site, because if they start tomorrow, it's going to take that long at least. But I've heard some great ideas. One restaurant owner said he'd love to set up a restaurant there with using the garage doors and making that old school look. Part of it is the contamination. They have test pits going on right now. So those are some of the things that slowed it down. Plus, it's way down on the portfolio of the company that owns it, because, one parcel in Gloucester and they've got billions of dollars of assets, they're not really interested. But we did have that in from a local person who's very prominent, who had a friend who's got somebody involved in the board. So I'm gonna utilize that opportunity to see if we can move something along, because it's gross. It's really unsightly. What would I like to see there? Something that's mixed use. So we could use some residences. I know there was an earlier proposal to put condominiums there. I'm not sure why that fell through, but a mixed use with something on the bottom, but just clean it up. It just looks really, let's just say it's not that great.
One follow-up, does the city have any power to make the owners do something in a time period, as opposed to just letting it lie fallow?
Currently, what we have, should I go first?
Go ahead.
We have the vacant building penalty. That's about it. But if you're a billion-dollar company, you don't mind paying whatever it is, $5,000 a year. So I think the pressure, the person I spoke to feels that those people on the board might say, we don't want to deal with Gloucester, give us a hard time. That's why they might consider selling it. And I did pass the info along to someone who was looking to build a mixed-use property. So hopefully that person, who also has means, can make something happen with the owner, because they seem very disinterested in making something happen.
Sorry, we're gonna. Yeah.
Thank you. I'm Patty Ann Page, and I represent Moderator Lobster down on Commercial Street. The rising tide lifts all boats, and I can assure you that the working waterfront is still a very viable industry sector in this community. $58 million from Kevin Hively in the Harbor Plan in his economic study. We're all aware that federal regulations, some state regulations define this industry. However, economically, do you have any plans or vision for investments in the fishing industry? When the fishing industry thrives, it does support Main Street and our downtown businesses.
So I believe we started with Mr. Lundberg last time, so we'll start with Mr. Berger this time.
Sure. So, my grandfather came here to fish. If not for fish, I could be, I don't know, working in a steel mill somewhere in Pennsylvania or somewhere in Michigan. So it is near and dear to my heart. Part of, as was mentioned earlier, the bid would include the downtown businesses. So it's an important part. That's why I preface my comments about I4C2 to remind people that it is in the designated port area. The last thing you'll see under my administration is getting out of DPA and looking for people to sell off all their fishing related industries to make way for condominiums. That's not going to happen. Why people come here in the first place, even the tourist industry has a lot to thank the fishing industry for, because people want to come and see a working waterfront. So we are vested in the fishing industry. You know Al Catoni, he's a very good employee for us as the Executive Director of Fisheries Commission and a commercial fisherman. And sometimes, as you know, I don't know if you went to Beauport this past week for the meetings, but our hands are tied due to federal regulations. And if any of you sat through or watched the meetings out there, it's just amazing the rulemaking that goes on sort of in a vacuum. You know, and there was, I don't know how many lobstermen were in there last Thursday, and all we got was a delay on their regulations about the cordless buoys, as opposed to just killing it right off the bat. So we can continue to advocate for it, but I think you hit the nail on the head with the big thing, which is regulations. You know, that's the biggest obstacle to the fishing industry thriving. So I've got I've got it in my blood that fishing is not dead, it's just different. And I'm going to fight to my last breath to make sure Gloucester's identity is still tied to the fishing industry.
Thank you, Ms. Lundberg.
So identity is one thing, and heritage is another thing, but management is the thing that's going to be the most important tool that we have. Our hands are not tied, first of all. Yes, there's a ton of regulations, but there are regulations in many, many industries, and industries figure out how to manage through those. One of the things that we have, and that is it is an opportunity for the city of Gloucester, is we have pretty much the last say on the designated port area and the marine industrial zoning that the city has. We have the power and authority to make changes on those, and we can make careful changes to make sure that those changes are accommodating the way the fishing industry has changed. Obviously, the fin fishing industry has declined and the lobster fisheries have grown immensely. Those technologically, they have different needs. And we can be smart partners to fine-tune those zonings and those use regulations to make it easier for our fishermen. And that's a management thing, but it takes a little vision. But to say that there's nothing we can do, our hands are tied, again, that's an insufficient answer. We have a lot of opportunity as the city of Gloucester.
I need to respond to this.
Sure.
Other industries have regulations. I don't know how many other industries the federal government says, you can't do your job. It's that simple. Stop fishing, you can't do your job. And then day to day, we wait to see what the rules are. You saw what happened with the cuts at the federal government earlier in the year. They didn't even know if they were going to be able to start the fishing season in May. So other industries have regulations, not like this.
Anything else, Mr. Lundberg?
Again, it's how you approach it and whether there's an opportunity or not. By saying not like this is just giving up. Yes, of course it's tough. That's why we had a big meeting like we had at the Beauport Hotel with 200 lobstermen showing up, because they were not happy with what the regulators were doing, and the regulators took a pause. And the regulators, they can be influenced just as anybody else. It takes some smart doing, it takes some advocacy, and not just saying, you know, we're not going to let it happen. No, be smart about it. We can do things that can make changes that can make the industry more profitable.
Thank you. Thanks for the question.
Well, it's hard to follow that important question because mine's much more light. It's about that area 14C2. And is it possible to improve the way it looks now? Like with just some 15-foot arbor trees around it? Like on the Gloucester sidewalk?
I think we'll start with Mr. Lundberg.
Yes, of course there are. And again, it's a question of our plan and what is the priority of the city, and then doing it. But it's absolutely doable, and we can do it, and we should do it, because that is a premier spot. And as I said earlier, it's our only open space, so we can make it look better. We may not be able to spend $1 gazillion on it, but we can spend something on it and make it look better and show that we're giving it the attention that it needs.
Okay, so I mentioned earlier, or maybe I didn't, but it's designated port area, so parking is not an allowable use. That's not something that's going to happen down the road. I'm not sure where you envision the trees. Certainly don't want them along Roger Street, so they end up blocking the view. But if there's opportunity to put trees elsewhere, we can work with the 400 Trees Project, who are looking for locations. So yes, absolutely, that can be done.
I contributed to the 400
Yeah,
trees.
well, thank you so much.
Just making you Just trying anything you could do to make it look better.
Yeah, that's fair.
Thank you. Who else? Anybody else have a question?
Hi, Peggy at Pop Gallery, and this question is also because I'm a resident and a business owner downtown. And when Shaw's closed on Railroad Avenue, that was a big miss, or a big loss for a lot of downtown people who don't have cars or transportation or are trying not to constantly drive to get groceries and stuff. It's really missed. They had done, Shaw's Grocery had done a lot to improve the condition, so no one called it Ghetto Shaw's anymore, or less people did. It was actually a great neighborhood. So it's now been, what, 6 months, 8 months since it was vacant, and I'm curious if there are proposals that anyone knows about. I heard one rumor the other day that had something to do with the potential of an Ocean State job lot, which I couldn't quite see being a good community use for that. Another big box store is not what small businesses would want, or another discounter would be not great for that space, in my humble opinion. A grocery or a food source would be wonderful. I'm curious if there's any plan.
Mr. Verga?
Yeah, I can't speak to specific plans of the owner, but I did meet with the owner, the new owner who bought it from the Sleetus family a few years ago. I met with him, I think, last September, and he mentioned how he was working on renewing the lease with Shaw's, and he felt pretty good about it. And then he contacted me about a week before it happened, saying they just, not even a couple days before, they decided they weren't renewing and they were out. We met with him a few other times. Our community development department met with him a couple times to see what we could do to assist them. He was looking for a significant amount of money from us to try to, for a TIF, which doesn't apply to what he was looking to do. I did hear the same rumor about Ocean State job lots. I've also heard that that may not be happening. I know there's somebody else circling who's interested in doing a mixed-use property there. And we've made it clear to that person that our goal is to see another supermarket there, large or small. And if there's a new project with residents above, that's the key component to me. That's going to be a function of the city council, though, because they'll have to approve zoning changes. Because when the 3A circle was drawn, it was specifically, there's a red dot in the middle that specifically excludes the Shaw's Plaza. So right now it's strictly commercial. So a zoning change through the city council would be necessary to allow for residential and or mixed use. And I'm open-minded about mixed use, but it's going to be, it's private property owner and private developers who are going to have to come forward and make something happen. And there's one who seems like he might be willing to do something. Hopefully he can find himself a tenant, because the current owner worked very hard and could not find anybody.
Mr. Lundberg?
So again, that's a great opportunity, a great example of an opportunity the city has. The zoning, as Mayor Verga pointed out, is for business. It's extensive business right now, no residential. And any particular use by any private owner is going to be subject to what the zoning is, and that's what we control. And so again, it's part of being the civic business partner of the businesses that might be thinking that that would be a good place to have some kind of business. And one of the goals that the city has, as Peggy said, is some grocery outlet downtown. And that would be a very important goal of the city, and we can make that a part of the deal.
I'm going to follow up for a moment. I understand there's a challenge when it's a private business, a private property. We don't have a say. We can't tell them what to do as long as they're within zoning. Could it be a role of the new economic development coordinator to be more proactive, to go out and try to bring businesses in, to start talking and with the property owners to draw, XYZ business in, whether it's a grocery store at the old Shaw's or a small mom and pop in some of the vacant storefronts on Main Street, so that we don't have yet another bank or nail salon or something. Nail salons are great. We have a lot of them. Can we be proactive about this and try to advocate for landlords not to just take whatever they can get, but to work towards specific business types? Sure.
The short answer is yes. I mean, I think that this Shaw's, as Paul used the word, it's the perfect one, is there is an opportunity. And this would be the poster child for a project that the new position, that the Economic Development Coordinator, can handle. It would be difficult. As I said, the owner who's in the business has not been able to attract a grocery store, but that doesn't mean we're not going to stop trying, and we're not going to stop pushing as hard as we can to the point of insisting that that's what happens there. But in the end, it becomes what he's able to put in there as a tenant is going to be the key thing. But the Economic Development Coordinator and the city will be working very hard to find those people for that vacant storefront and all the others around the city.
Mr. Lundberg?
Yeah, just a word about the process. So the economic development coordinator can be the functionary who goes out and knocks on the doors and talks to owners about who's interested. But it is the goal. It's the city and the mayor who sets the goal. What do we want there? It's not just whatever the property owner wants. It's what do we want. Start with our goal first. And when you start with our goal first, a lot of times you can get your goal or maybe a part of it, but that's something that we should set first before we set the economic development coordinator out knocking on doors.
Thank you. Any other questions?
I apologize, this is a good question. So on Main Street, the new hotel called the Highliner, looks like they're getting going, and the sign is up and they're painting and the windows are getting done. That's great. They were able to successfully build out that small boutique hotel without a parking lot. I heard lots about an attempt by someone to develop Santander Bank as a small hotel, and it got to the point of, I guess, council and or city planning turned the proposal down because there wasn't going to be enough parking, when in fact there's a parking lot there that's growing weeds. It is not being used. I know it's a private lot, but is there a way for the city to also get that lot to be used, even if it isn't going to be developed as a hotel? What can be done with the Santander lot, but also why didn't that happen, and did it have something to do with parking?
So I understand that maybe makes more sense for the mayor, but we are starting with Mr. Lundberg on this one.
I don't have all the details of that deal. Obviously, a vacant parking lot that's not being used is an opportunity. And is there a way that we can leverage the city's influence to use that opportunity? Could be. It would have to be something that we'd pursue, but I don't have a good answer for the details on that.
Yeah, I would say, well, first of all, the city planning wouldn't shoot it down. That's not their function. They just go over what the rules are and what you can and can't do. And we were, I was hearing from the local attorney who was representing the previous owner, because it was sold again, so it's no longer owned by the people who were looking at the hotel. And for some reason, they backed out. He called me, the attorney called me out and says, by the way, they're selling. And I was like, what's going on? He says, oh, they just decided they don't want to do it anymore. The current owner, he's got some other ideas. He's quite well off, and it's just he hasn't decided what he wants to do with it. But parking, they do have, I think, 23 plus or minus spots. So there is room to do something there. I don't think he's looking to do a hotel now, especially with one permitted and actually almost open down the street.
But just quickly, does the parking issue, again, we've got an empty lot sitting there. Could the city influence the owner of this property or in some way to allow for parking to happen in that space that's a current parking lot?
We could certainly ask, but I think there's liability. I mean, I think the exception to the rule is Bank Gloucester. I mean, there's a lot of parking lots that are locked up like a drum after hours. And I think since they're not really sure what they want to do with it, I'm not sure they'd want to share it with the world at this point, especially the condition it's in, because it would need some upgrades before they did anything.
Any other questions? John? She has a wait for the mic.
Thank you. I don't think you answered part of her question, probably Greg, because since you would have probably the most knowledge about it. Why did the small hotel get a permit to build a hotel without parking on the property?
It was, would assume, through the ZBA and with the current zoning. Somebody gave them relief.
But who did?
I'm
Someone must know.
Yes, I'm assuming there's a zoning board of appeals that gave them the okay. And I'm sure it's like the restaurants downtown that everybody's using the same parking lot, counting it as theirs.
Listen, I have a 5-bedroom bed and breakfast. Zoning insisted I have parking for 5 cars, which I do.
Mhm.
This is, how many rooms in this hotel? I think 15,
it's 12,
11,
something
11?
like that.
11 rooms, no parking, not even one? That makes no sense to me.
Right, well, there was a public hearing process, and people had their say, and the boards voted the way they voted. So I hear your complaint, because it's bizarre to me that you have one parking lot downtown that everybody's counting as their parking, but that's the current, the way the zoning currently reads, that can be counted as their parking.
If I were a retailer right now, I'd be concerned about the traffic. A hotel takes a lot of time. Sorry. A hotel takes a lot of time for people to load and unload cars, and they don't even have a place to go park the car. They're going to have to circle. It will be very interesting to see how it works. I hope it's successful, because we need more accommodations.
Oh,
But accommodations without parking doesn't make much sense.
I hear you, John, but there was a public process, and there was the opportunity for people to express their support or opposition to the project, and those that made the votes gave it enough votes to make it happen.
I think we're going to continue this debate another time.
The only thing I was trying to get across, so these people can understand, like I could try to understand, is why are you using that 200 foot, is it foot? I think 200 foot rule, where if there's a parking lot 200 feet away, it's okay for everything? Is that, there must be a rule.
I suspect that's how they used it, because just like are there any restaurants, maybe Oliver's on Main Street has a parking spot, and Pilot House, but I'd say the other 90% are utilizing those other public lots, whether it's over near City Hall or down St. Peter's. So I would say with pretty good assurance that the ordinance you're referring to is what got them the ability to do what they did.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any other questions before we close out? All right. Well, thank you both, Paul and Greg. It was this was a good conversation. I loved hearing a lot of it. Thank you again to Anne for organizing everything, 1623 for filming it, Minglewood Harborside. And thank you all for attending it. It's critically important that you show how important downtown and business is to our candidates and to our city. Campaign literature on the way out. Thank you all.